So hello, I'm Jake Marvel, the UC Javits Chaplain, talking to you here inside the chapel space that we've created in the Javits Center that had become a medical station here in New York City. As of today, our patients are gone, but there are still staff and people here who are continuing to clean up the hospital and to keep it ready in case we need it again. And our hopes and prayers is that we don't have to come back. But we are still here at the Javits, and I have a message for the folk who are here or who have been here. Today's lesson comes from Psalm 23. This is a text that was assigned for today in the pattern that I personally follow. And when I first saw it for today, I wasn't so excited about it, only because I've read it so many times. You have probably heard it so many times that I wasn't sure I could find anything new to say. And then I met a patient a couple weeks ago who relied on this text to bring him comfort and to bring him hope in a very tragic time for him. And as I thought about that experience, I decided this is indeed the text that I'd like to talk about today. So it is Psalm 23, one that you've probably heard many times. I'm going to read it for you again. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord my whole life long. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Like I said, this is a text that I've heard many times, I've read many times, you've probably heard many times. But an experience very recently has helped me see it in a very different light. Here at UC Javits, I have had the privilege on occasion to visit some patients who have been here when this was a COVID facility in April. And there was one patient in particular who wanted to speak to a chaplain because he was terrified. He had a deep Christian faith, and in the moment of his diagnosis and realizing what he was facing, in that terror, he needed someone to be with him, to pray with him, and to explore his faith in that moment. And I was honored to be with him. A couple things happened in that visit. We explored what his beliefs were. He remembered that he was dearly loved by God and that nothing would change that. And in the midst of our conversation, as we explored his life story and he explored his faith, and suddenly he was starting to feel a bit better. And as we were talking, coming to the end of our conversation, he said, "Chaplain, I want to pray." And I said, "Let's pray." And then he jumped right in to Psalm 23. He didn't wait for me to pray. He wasn't looking for me for that at all. He knew what he wanted to pray. He knew what he wanted to say. And he started, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." And he and I together recited the psalm. A beautiful affirmation of trust, a declaration of confidence in God's love and God's passion for us. I could feel in him that trust and that firm belief that had been wavering earlier, but as he found his strength in the words of the psalm, it reminded him of that trust and that faith and those beliefs that he had in God. And it was amazing and beautiful to watch that happen in him. He leads me beside still waters. Your rod and your staff protect me. Even in the valley of the shadow of death, and he felt very much in that shadow, you are with me. You prepare a table before me. All of these images were coming back to him and bringing him hope and helping him face what he was facing. And something clicked for me. To watch him in those moments, to experience with him and in him the reminder of how powerful this psalm was, reminded me of how valuable it is for the times of faith when things are going well, when things are strong, that we can lean into our faith, our relationships, our beliefs, so that when the tough times come, we're better prepared. A friend of mine, a mentor of mine, colleague, says about spiritual care and about the spiritual life, he says, when the sun shines, dig for bedrock. When the sun shines, dig for bedrock. And what he means is that when things are going well, don't forget your foundation. Don't forget your roots. The time to be out in the garden doing the labor and pulling out the weeds and doing all that are the times when the sun is shining. That's the time you get out and you do the work. It's not always and only in times of crisis that we turn to faith. But when the sun shines, you dig for bedrock. It was clear to me that this man had done that work. It was clear to me that even though at the beginning of our visit he was terrified and uncertain in his faith, in the midst of our conversation, he remembered the God who loved him. He remembered the faith of his childhood. He remembered the faith that had given him strength and wisdom and guided him all through his life. And he could talk about times, highs and lows in his life. And that faith was a consistent thread. When the sun shines, dig for bedrock. That's what he had done so many times. And here, at this time of crisis in his life, the work that he'd put in the past was bearing fruit. And so that is my wish for you. There are times when we walk beside beautiful, calm streams and see the beautiful, hear the birds, and it's a beautiful, wonderful time outside. There are those days. And there are other days when you walk through the valley, the shadow of death, and it's hard to see the sun shining, and it's hard to even believe that above all that darkness, there is a sun shining. We hit those extremes in our lives. But constantly returning to our faith can help us in those times of struggle. He taught me that. He showed me that. And so, my wish for you is that you would find those still waters and walk beside them, and it would restore your soul. It is my wish that if you are in the shadows now, that you trust the sun shines above the darkness, and there will come a time that you will exit and walk through that valley. May you, when you need it most, trust in the God who will never leave you. Trust in the Jesus who would do anything for you, knowing with the guidance of the Spirit that there is no place you can go that God has not already been, even to the end of your days.